WHLN.
Michael Jackson, the king of pop,
was taken to the hospital.
He was apparently administered CPR in the ambulance.
Legendary king of pop, Michael Jackson, passed away on Thursday, June 25th.
He was using multiple prescriptions, and when I confronted him, he started to cry. He said, you don't understand, I'm in a lot of pain.
My brother was not healthy, and they didn't care.
You know, he was getting drugs from multiple sources, and ultimately we have a doctor that dedicates his entire full-time care of Michael Jackson, and clearly that care didn't go well.
We are a grieving family member, and we are his voice now.
All right, a huge day in L.A. Testimony in the Michael Jackson wrongful death case underway. As we speak on the stand, Jackson's mother, Catherine. Well, she's going to be momentarily. The first time she's ever testified before a jury in her 83 years. The Jackson family, remember, suing AEG Live for $1 billion, claiming the concert promoter negligently hired and supervised Conrad Murray, who, of course, was, the doctor serving 4 years in prison for Michael's 2009 overdose death. Catherine Jackson's lawyer said today's testimony is going to be off the charts emotionally. Alan Duke is live at the courthouse in L.A. So, Alan, okay, off the charts emotionally, what does that mean? What are we going to hear from her?
Well, we will. I promise you. I really expect that it will be emotional. She's been emotional in the 50 days that she's been mostly sitting in the court on the front row, crying at times, laughing other times. She has sat through a deposition for 3 days. She was questioned by AEG lawyers for 12 hours. So she's already been through that grind with some questions including, did Joe Jackson beat you in your marriage? Things like that she had to go through. I don't know that we'll hear that in this trial in the courtroom, that the jury will hear that, but that's the kind of thing she already has had to face. And as you say, first time she's ever been before a jury, but certainly this is the third trial she sat through to watch other people testify. So in that sense, she knows what's going on.
Okay, but John and Ryan, I mean, you're not supposed to bring emotion into this. Well, into a decision with the jury. How does it play here?
When you're dealing with damages, this is wrongful death is what I do in Florida, Georgia, and Alabama. And when you're dealing with damages and how somebody feels about the loss of a loved one, it's clearly relevant. And how, your relationships with them and what came up in that relationship that you had, mother-child, through its course, it's relevant.
Yeah, and the other thing is, what will she say, if anything, about what she knows about Michael Jackson's relationship with Dr. Murray, what AEG knew? Because all of this is about what AEG knew or did not know. They're claiming they didn't know anything about this doctor, didn't have control over him, and the family has been saying all along, no, they knew, and they put him in this place. So it'll be interesting to see what she talks about with respect to that.
And I want to play something else for you here in a second, but isn't it, when you look at it, isn't it pretty cut and dry? I mean, either AEG hired Conrad Murray or Michael Jackson hired Conrad Murray, Tanya. So if it comes to, why have we been in trial since April? Really, this has been going on since April for that one question.
Well, I think that a lot of this case really boils down, you're right, it should be straightforward, but there are all of these ancillary questions about who really had control. Was Michael Jackson the one calling the shots? I covered the Conrad Murray case. A lot of that was discussed somewhat extensively there, but, no case is ever easy when you're talking about a billion-dollar celebrity who died very tragically. And so certainly I think that Catherine Jackson, she's got a story to tell perhaps about damages, but let's not underscore, a lot of this will be emotion. This is about pulling the jury in and reminding them that Michael Jackson was not just a tragic superstar, he was a father, he was a breadwinner, and so she's going to try to piece that story out. But I do think that the legal questions are not, they're a little more cut and dried, but because of the nature of this case, they've been blown open and convoluted perhaps a little.
Okay. Christy, I remember from the Murray trial, when Catherine Jackson walks in that courtroom, when she gets up on that stand, the entire place takes notice. She is such a powerful presence in that courtroom. I think everybody, no matter who you are, you got to pay attention, and you give her testimony more weight than almost anybody else.
In fact, here's what the family attorney says about Catherine's testimony.
We're going to hear about what a tremendous relationship she had with her son Michael, what it was like to raise such a family, a talented family, and what it's like for Michael's kids now, not only the relationship they had with Michael, but what they've lost and how they're doing.
The jurors, for 50 days, more or less, have sat just a few feet away from her. So it's almost like they probably feel like they know her.
I mean, they feel like you know her, but you never know someone until you hear from them. And I think that the jurors will like Catherine. She's a strong woman. She's feisty, and she's a great woman.
And she's a survivor. You know, I think a lot of people see her as a survivor. She's not had the easiest life in the world by any means. So, Alan Duke, I wanted to ask you, what kind of support does she have there today? Who's with her?
Well, she has Trent Jackson, who is her nephew, who is constantly with her. He's sort of her chief of staff caregiver. He's in there. He's been sitting with her every day. Rebe Jackson, her oldest daughter was here earlier, but I don't know that she's going to be allowed in the courtroom because she has been subpoenaed to be a witness by AEG. But she also has these lawyers. She's gotten to know these lawyers quite well over the last couple of years, and they're somewhat like family to her. So she does have support in the courtroom, and she's really established a close relationship to the people, including the deputies and the bailiffs in the courtroom. They seem to have a lot of respect for her. They've got to know her over the last 2 months.
All righty. Alan Duke, thank you. So glad that you could be with us here because I know you've got to get back into court. But this wrongful death testimony, by the way, this suit began in April. And it's supposed to stretch into September. So we'll have more on Catherine's testimony at the top of the hour on News Now, by the way. What if Trayvon Martin had been white? HLN asked his parents that question. Their answer has given a lot of people something to think about. Dr. King joining us again to talk more in a moment.